Apologies to the. Let's get started, shall we? My apologies to people watching outside that we are going to have to point the screen at the slides. I will make sure the slides are available online so you can go through and look at the slides while we're going through this. And what I'm trying to do is to get my iCloud presentation onto iCloud. And it won't let me do that because I can't onto iCloud. So never mind. None of your problems. We can work with this. Just means you need to ask a few more questions. And if you can't read anything when you're sitting there, then I'll try and read them out so that you can work out with that. But it should be fun. So welcome to another ToolBox session. And this one is about making money. All right. And what I want to be doing is talking a bit about electronic commerce and about all the other ways in which you might be able to make money online. Usual rules of engagement apply. If you want to ask questions or say I'm talking rubbish or anything else, then please do so. Okay. I know as a group, you can be quite interactive, and as you know, I like that. So please do feel free to do that. So what I'm trying to do today is some of it's very obvious. All right, we live in a world where e-commerce has become a driving force of business. Just how big a driving force is the important thing, and what's happening in e-commerce that's so important. So let's explore some of that. Of course, this is a toolbox, and a toolbox session says that what we want to do is to give you some tools for thinking about e-commerce. And so what I'd like you to do as an activity after this is to go away and explore some of the latest tools that are around to help you build your own e-commerce presence online. All right, and we'll discuss a variety of different tools that you can use. Okay, but that's going to be the activity. I want you to try some things for yourself, and I want to talk about some of the pitfalls and problems that are out there. And then also talk about some of the trends going forward. So that's the agenda for today, and I hope that will be interesting and that you will find it useful for you. So let's start off by looking at some figures. And these are the latest figures I could find. They're from the Government's Office for National Statistics, and they were published at the end of last year. And what you can see here is that according to the Office of National Statistics, e-commerce sales now represent 18% of business turnover in the UK. All right. Now, I found that quite hard to believe because we've got two different things here. We've got e-commerce sales and business turnover, and they're not quite the same thing. So I'm trying to work out exactly what they mean by that. But if they're right, 18% is a massive part of the UK economy. All right. And that's the important thing here. Website sales, £164 billion, represented 6% of business turnover in 2012, up from 5% in 2011. So what's the difference? The difference is all of the other things that are being included in e-commerce, and what they mean by that is business-to-business transactions. So retail, which is the stuff you and I generally know about when we're talking about e-commerce, is 6% of business turnover, whereas the bigger impact of all of digital business is 18% of business turnover in the UK. Now, if you think about anything that is, nearly a fifth of all business turnover, you are talking about one of the most important, if not the most important, growing part of the economy. And for me, that means it's something that you, as toolbox people, should be part of. You should at least be able to talk about it. You should be understanding whether you could build something. What roles are you going to be playing? If you're working in e-commerce, what sort of things would you be doing if you were graduating or working on a summer job or whatever it is? What sort of things would you be doing in e-commerce? Today, 95% of businesses in the UK have broadband internet and 82% have a website. Okay. In 2012, 43% of businesses used social networks, with almost a quarter using social media to respond to customer opinions, reviews, and questions. So pretty important stuff. And as I say, what I'm interested in is how we, as a group of people here in Kingston, take part in that. How we part of it. I can actually switch to desktop presenter now if you'd like me to. Is that a good thing for you to do?
Yeah.
All right, so let me do that, because while we were talking, my phone was being used as an access point, and I now managed to transfer the slides over there. So that would be good. Means we can use this instead. Said it was finished. There we are. Okay, so exactly the same slides. I just use them on here instead. Okay. All right. So that's the ones you've seen. All right. So, what's electronic commerce? In some senses, electronic commerce is websites that sell things. What I want to be doing today is to begin to broaden that out a bit. But let's have imagine that one of you decides that you want to work with a family member or a friend to sell antiques online or something like that. Something, you've got some pictures or some electronic goods you've found or whatever. You want to sell them online. So in the middle is a green square here, and that is an electronic commerce store. So it's a store that's been built, it's running somewhere, and I suspect that many of you have an idea of what that would look like. You know that you can go to any brand.co.uk and you'll find the store at the other end of that. Let's say keep the current scheme. All right, fine. What I want to try and convince you is that the store is a lot more than just a website with a shopping cart on it. So what I suggested around the outside is that there are a lot of other things going on here. Today, if we're building an e-commerce presence for a company, the chances are that we will use an e-commerce platform. What we won't do is to open up our text editor and start programming something up in PHP. The work involved in creating a new e-commerce store is actually enormous. It's complex. Hundreds of thousands, if not millions of lines of code to do it properly. So instead of that, we'll go along and we'll use a platform that somebody else has produced. And today, there are a number of platforms that you should know about. Okay. It's going to be really annoying, isn't it, if it keeps doing that? Never mind, let's try this. So one of them you should know about is a platform called Magento. Okay. Magento e-commerce is the UK site for that, and Magento is it's an e-commerce platform. It's a very interesting e-commerce platform because it powers many of the sites in the UK. So many of the fashion sites, many of the electronic sites, many of the sites selling stuff for pets, food, whatever, will be powered by Magento. And Magento is definitely one of the things you should know about. What makes it so interesting is that it's free. You could download a copy of what's called Magento Community Edition, and you could learn Magento. It's written in PHP, but you could download it and learn it. Most companies who are using it are not using the free version. They're using an enterprise version, and that enterprise version will cost them 25, 50, £100,000 a year to use. Okay? The very typical new way of selling software in which you give away a good version of the software, but you sell the excellent version. You sell the excellent version with lots of support and lots of other features. Great thing from our point of view as educators or learners is that we can get to learn this stuff without having to pay out all of that money. I can go use the community edition, I can learn about the software, and I can become good at using the software before going out and working in a business. So if any of you are interested, and maybe you've got some PHP background and are interested in putting a store together, this is one way you could do it. All right. So that's the first one. Any questions about Magento? I'm going to show you a couple of these platforms, and then we'll come back to anything about that. Okay. So let's show you another tool that's there. And this is one called Hybris. Okay. I'm trying to find his Hybris. Hybris is another platform. It's written in Java. If you were trying to compare Hybris and Magento, you would find quite similar features. I think some people would turn around and say that Hybris was perhaps a bit more enterprise, but other people would say no, in fact, Magento is just as good. But Hybris is I don't want to show that message again, ever. Hybris is a tool that is extremely important to large companies who are building electronic commerce. For your point of view, what you need to understand is that if you want to work in this area, the chances are you will have to go and learn how to work with either a platform like Hybris or a platform like Magento, or one of another 4 or 5 platforms that are out there. Okay? In other words, you're not going to write your own e-commerce platform, and that's one of the messages I want to sort of get over to you today. So, if we go back to my store, all right, in my diagram here, then what we have is the e-commerce platform. Now, the e-commerce platform is integrated with lots of other pieces of a puzzle. We need, for example, to host our site somewhere. If we're hosting with Hybris or with Magento, we've got to go and find somebody like Rackspace or somewhere else where we're going to actually put the servers that are going to run that. So there's some hosting to be dealt with. There's also the possibility that if we're going to show lots of very high quality images, and we want our site to be a global site and we're going to run it in that way, we're also going to need what's called a content delivery network. Today, lots of people will be using Amazon hosting, for example, to run a content delivery network. So what we'll be doing is going out and getting hosting for our platform, but also we may be using some other hosting as well. We need to find a fulfillment company, and we need to work out how we're going to do fulfillment. Fulfillment is the process of picking, packing, shipping, delivering the product, and also the issue about returns. How do you deal with things coming back? All right, if people want to return things. But we need a fulfillment company. We might do it ourselves. We might decide, if let's suppose we were going to set up our shop, we might decide that we were going to go and find a little warehouse somewhere, and we were going to put our products in that warehouse, and then when an order came in, we were going to pack the stuff ourselves and go down to the post office and send it off. All right? But fulfillment doesn't come as part of the e-commerce platform. Yes?
Doesn't logistics come part of it?
Logistics and fulfillment are part of the same thing. Fulfillment is usually used in an e-commerce sense. So what we talk about is e-commerce fulfillment. Logistics has been around a lot longer, and you might, for example, have logistics being part of stocking a regular supermarket or dealing with delivery across the supply chain. So I would say that e-commerce fulfillment is a form of logistics. Logistics may or may not be about e-commerce. But yeah.
Would it be easier to use dropshipping company instead of?
So dropshipping is an option, okay, but there's a lot of people who will tell you it's very hard to make money with dropshipping. And what you're doing is all the marketing and all of the work, and you're selling and doing that stuff like that. But they're taking the bulk of the money. Does everybody understand what dropshipping is? So dropshipping is a very good question. Dropshipping is a way in which instead of having your own fulfillment company, what you have is a relationship with another company. So you have a shop online, you go and look at that shop, and here it is, I can buy the things, I put them in my basket, I pay for it, whatever, and then an order goes to another company. And that company packs the goods and sends them off to the person who's there. It's called drop shipping because the shipping comes directly from the supplier or from a third party rather than from the company that you're buying from. Okay. But it's a good example. But lots of people make absolutely no money on it. Next part of the thing we need is we need a payment gateway. We're going to need to take Visa or PayPal or American Express or whatever. We're going to need to have a relationship with a payment company. And what I suppose I'm trying to get you to understand is that when we put together an electronic commerce proposition for a company, we need to pull together all these different pieces. And that payment isn't trivial. We need to go to WorldPay or PayPal or SagePay or one of the other people, and we need to integrate that into our proposition. If I go and get Magento may already have relationships with a number of payment providers in the UK, in which case they'll be very simple to use. But if we want to work with our bank that we happen to have a relationship with, we may make a gluing together of our bank and our e-commerce store could potentially be quite complicated. We need to integrate with our business. Integrating with our business is not trivial. If we have a company, I chose antiques earlier, and I said antiques were interesting, and they are, because generally you only have one piece. So supposing you're asked by a company to help them sell antiques online. And let's suppose they have a little shop somewhere in Kingston, and they're selling those antiques out of that shop. But they're also selling online. So they put the stuff online and people can go in and buy it. What happens if somebody goes and buys online, and just before they make their purchase, somebody buys the goods in the shop? How do you stop that from happening? How do you make sure that you're not selling something you don't own at the time that it's sold? Now, lots of stores solve that problem by allocating stock to the website or allocating stock to the shop. So what they may be doing is saying, and it's the same with selling anything, but if you've only got a limited number of something, you're not really supposed to sell something you don't have. Okay? So the business integration means I've got to try and work out how it fits in with my business. In Germany, it's extremely common when you're buying clothes or shoes to buy lots of different sizes and have them delivered, then to try them on and ship the ones that didn't fit back. All right? How do you fit the stuff that comes back into the supply chain? If I'm going to go and buy a pair of jeans, and actually what I do is I go and buy 3 pairs of jeans, and then I return 2 of them, how do I get those 2 back into the warehouse? Not trivial, all right? And therefore, integrating with your business is going to be quite hard. Supposing I'm not selling physical objects, but I'm selling something like an air ticket, then the final thing here is that you might have a relationship with somebody else who's doing the selling for you. You might, for example, be going to Amadeus or Sabre or one of the other companies that does airline ticketing, and what you're doing is just acting as an agent for them. You're getting the customer, you're having a relationship with the client, but then you're asking somebody else to fulfill that via a business-to-business relationship. So down the right-hand side, we have all the things that make e-commerce interesting and difficult. Usually there's a simple version of most of those, but when we're looking at companies doing things themselves, it can get quite complicated. Ocado, you've all heard of Ocado. Ocado is reported to have spent £300 million on setting up their first warehouse and distribution system, and the e-commerce platform, and the fulfillment, and the marketing before they became profitable. So if somebody says to you, how expensive is this e-commerce stuff? Problem is, you can say to them, well, it's £300 million if you're Ocado. It can be a little bit cheaper if you're somebody else. All right? There's a spectrum between extremely expensive and a lot cheaper, as we'll see. So that's the right-hand side of that story. But I've already hinted that in order to be an effective e-commerce, you can't just build the software using a platform, build all the relationships and whatever, because nobody will buy. It used to be, 10 years ago, that people would be excited if a company went online. So, I worked with Benetton back in 1997, and we built their first website for it. And in 1997, there was an announcement. People got really excited by the fact that a company went online. Today, every company's online. So unless you tell people about your business that you set up online, nobody will know you're there. And so a large amount of what e-commerce is about today is about the left-hand side, which is about search engine optimization, about email marketing, banner advertising, pay-per-click advertising, and affiliate marketing. All right, ways of getting people to your site so that they know about your site and so they're interested in what you offer. We'll touch on some of those in a minute because some of those are opportunities for you to make money. Before I do that, just one final thing. Don't assume that all e-commerce stores are the same. Many e-commerce stores are, many brands will have their own e-commerce store because they'll think that's the best way of doing things. But increasingly, people sell not just direct via their own e-commerce store, but they also sell via marketplaces. And marketplaces are places that sell more than one brand, and you know lots of these. So you'll know, for example, that eBay is a marketplace, Place is a marketplace. There are lots more places who are interested in providing the gap between the company that makes something and the customer. In the fashion area, Net-a-Porter and ASOS are both going to be marketplaces that help companies sell their products. And a supermarket is a marketplace. If you're a company like Procter & Gamble or Unilever and you make toothpaste, you probably don't sell your toothpaste directly online. What you do is you sell your toothpaste through a marketplace, a supermarket, or a shop like Amazon. And so these relationships are all different. And when you're going out looking at potentially working in this area, you're going to need to think about which part of this you're going to work with and what you're going to do. I put this website in red because that's not the brand's website or the company's website. That's another website. And the red and the green are really the two opportunities you have. So you've got an opportunity to set up an e-commerce store, and that's what we'll talk about in a minute. But you also have the possibility of setting up a website that helps another e-commerce store make money. All right. So you could actually, that red square could be yours, or the green could be yours. And what we'll be looking at for the rest of this is some of those different pieces. Okay. So what are all the different ways that you can make money online? Tell me. Yes?
Okay.
What's that? Affiliate marketing. All right, we'll talk about that in a minute. Yes? Affiliate marketing, yeah. Paid advertising. PPC advertising. Okay. Yes, but not in the way. We'll turn that around a minute. Yes.
Pay-per-view.
Pay-per-view advertising.
Yeah.
Oh, pay-per-view as in video. Okay.
Yeah, videos as well.
All right. Yes. How else? Somebody else. Come on. What else can you make money online? Come on. Yes.
Email marketing.
Well, how are you going to do it with email marketing? No, how are you going to make money? Yes, marketing in general is an opportunity, all right? But actually, that's how to spend money online as well. What I'm interested in is if I said to you, here's £1,000, go and make me a lot of money, how would you do that online? Yeah. Selling goods. Good, all right? Selling things, all right? Selling goods. What else? How else could you make money? Yes.
Providing different services.
Providing services, all right? It's just two of you in this room, are there? Come on. Other ways of making money. You're not allowed to answer. How else could you make money? Come on. Anybody else? You must be able to think of some more ways of making money. Not you. What do other people think? How else could we make money? You're not very good, are you? All right, I'll give you my list. Here's my list. All right? My list, first thing, is gambling. All right? Whether we're talking about gambling from the playing poker type of gambling, or whether we're buying and selling Bitcoin, all right, or buying and selling shares, you can make money by going online and investing or putting everything on Queen or whatever, all right? I'm not recommending that, which is why it's in brackets, all right? Everything else, I'm sort of recommending, all right? Including the last one, which we'll come in a minute. If you had an attic or a spare room full of stuff, you could go and sell it on eBay, all right? And that's an opportunity. Really easy, yes?
This was just a rumor that was told to me. Isn't it true that you could use your hardware on your computer by selling just graphical power?
Oh, right, so selling CPU cycles. You could, yeah. Not many people will pay for it. So there are a lot of people who will take it from you. So the suggestion was that you could sell the time you happen to be online. You sell part of your computer in the background. 2 minutes, all right?
No.
So, what? Okay, yeah, sure.
You may be interested in Bitcoin mining.
Yes, yes, exactly. So Bitcoin mining is potentially a way of making very, very, very small amounts of money, all right? It used to be a way of making money because when there weren't very many people doing it, your chances of actually earning some Bitcoin were quite high. Most of the stuff that is being done, which steals cycles from your CPU, is being done by malware or botnets, all right? And that's not really a good way of using either your computers or electricity or anything else, okay? So you're right, it is a possibility. There are some public projects where we might share our computer time in order to be able to try and solve some big problems in the world, but it's not a surefire way of making money. I mean, you know, the sort of leave your computer on while you sleep and we'll pay you 2p. There's probably better ways of making 2p than leaving your. You're probably going to use 2p's worth of electricity. All right, that's the problem. Okay. So selling on eBay is popular. Yes.
There is one other way. It's making videos in the YouTube.
Yes. Yes. How are you going to make money by making videos on YouTube?
You sign contract with YouTube, and you get some kind of $5
Yes. Yes. It's
or 100,000.
It's really an affiliate scheme. All right. Of one sort or another. I'll show you in a minute because that's definitely one of the categories I'm going to look at. All right. You could build your own store. How many of you have ever built a web store? Okay, what did it sell? Banned merchandise. Where did you get your banned merchandise stuff?
From just a printing company.
Okay, all right, that sounds cool. Oh, banned merchandise. Yeah. I thought it was BANNED. I thought this was stuff that was illegal or something. All right. Okay. Great. All right. Yes. Shit. Absolutely. Selling banned merchandise. Music-related stuff. Really, really good. Okay. Anybody else sold online? Yeah. What are we selling? Clothes. Where did the clothes come from?
I worked with a boutique construction.
Okay. Okay. All right. Make lots of money.
Quite a bit.
Good. Okay. Come and do this. Anything else? Who else sold online? There was another hand. Go on.
Selling code. I mean, programming code.
Oh, code. Yeah. And you've sold code online.
Still not.
Not yet. Okay. All right. I'd like you all to feel that you could sell online something as part of this activity. I'd like to try and think about that and show you some tools to do. One of my vocal people in the audience said we could sell services instead of products. I want to show you some sites that sell services, because selling services is probably at least as useful as selling goods, all right, and interesting. So among there, you've got selling software, possibility. Advertising. I don't mean buying advertising, I mean selling advertising. Selling advertising is where you offer an audience to an advertiser. And in order to sell that audience, you're going to have an audience. If you don't have any audience, you can't sell any advertising. But that's certainly a possibility. Affiliate schemes, we'll talk about those. And software as a service. Operating software as a service where you provide some functionality and you charge people for that functionality. Yes?
Can't you use social networking as a way of driving business to your website?
You can, but you can't. Social networking itself. So I really want you to. I want you to separate out marketing, which is a really important part of all of this, from actually making some money. So if we use social network to drive people to my store, it's my store that makes money, and I've helped it along with the social networking. But for this particular session, I'd like you to focus on the making money as opposed to the marketing. All right. So you'll see some marketing things in there, but that's when you are helping somebody else do their marketing as opposed to doing your own. Okay. One thing that I put win prizes. Why do you think I put win prizes as a category of making money online? Anybody know about prize winning online? I don't mean gambling, which is what I said at the top. So I'll come back to that, because that's an important one. The final thing here is get a better job. Okay, so if you are, sometimes it's worth giving things away in order to show that you exist, so that then you can go and get a better job. So if you're a coder, if you're a programmer, quite often people will they'll give away code, they will show off what they can do with their code, and the purpose of that is to persuade some company to take them on to give them a much better job. So that's a way of making money online, but it's not directly making money online. What you're doing is you're using the web to market yourself. So yes?
There's something on GitHub.
GitHub is a good example. So you might use GitHub as a place to show off that you could do something, and then someone like me comes along and goes, oh, there's somebody who can do that. Can I employ you in order to come and do
Or
it?
it can go the other way around.
It can indeed. All right, so let's have a look at some of those in a bit more detail. How many of you have seen Fiverr? Just one. Okay, do you like Fiverr? Okay, Fiverr is the most crazy marketplace on the web. So let's have a look at Fiverr. Fiverr.com. Fiverr.com is a marketplace for people who will sell their time or things for $5 US. Okay, so you can go in, and there are literally tens of thousands of people who will do stuff for you for a $5. All right, and it's US $5, so it's actually about £3.20. All right, so supposing you want a really cool answer phone message on your voicemail, all right, you can go and hire somebody who is an impressionist or a star, all right, to answer your phone for you. Okay, let's have a look. I will draw you a Simpsons cartoon. All right. I will give you ninja tactics in finding a job at LinkedIn. I'll write a 500-word short story about you. Okay, let's have a look in graphics and design. Listen, if any of you want to start a business and you think it would be good to have a cool logo for my business, Fiverr. All right, because there's no cheaper way of getting a logo than going along and saying, I'll pay you $5 if you draw me a really cool logo. All right, and all of these people work in order to help people with little jobs they want to do. I'll show you in 2 minutes, all right? I'll show you another one of these. But let's just talk about Fiverr. So one of the things you could do to make money online is you could go and offer your time to Fiverr. You could say, what is it that I know about? There are people who will ice a cake with a name on it and then take a photograph of it so that you can put it up, you know, I love you in 27 different languages or whatever. There's lots of people, lots of really weird and strange services. But actually, just keep it in your mind as you go forward, because this is the cheapest way of getting lots of things done. Let's show you another one. There's a similar one called TaskRabbit. And TaskRabbit is another marketplace for small tasks. So supposing, I'll give you an example. My business Hyper Island has a guy who works for us in New York, and what he regularly does is goes and interviews clients, and when he goes and interviews clients, he takes along a phone, and during the interview he'll tape the interview he'll record it with a phone. So he's got to have a meeting. He's got an hour-long interview. He wants that interview transcribed. He wants somebody to write it out so that he can then send it round to all the rest of us so we can see what's happening. He uses TaskRabbit. He goes and finds somebody to whom you can send a WMV file, and 24 hours later they send back a transcript, all right, of the stuff of the interview. $25. $25 for something that would not, if you hired someone to go to the meeting and transcribe the meeting, that would cost you hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Here is somebody who will do it for $25 an hour. Okay? So there is a whole economy emerging of people who will take on jobs. Suppose you go to IKEA and you buy lots of furniture and you come home and you think, oh God, I've now got a little screwy thing and put it together, all right? You can go to TaskRabbit and you can say, or something similar in the UK, and you can go, please will you make up all my furniture for me? And you'll find lots of people who are prepared to assemble IKEA furniture, all right, for far less than it would cost you to do it in terms of pain and blisters. So this is part of a new type of economy. And if you're good at anything at all, then TaskRabbit and Fiverr are the sort of model you might want to look at. Being able to offer your services online with these sorts of things. Yeah. What's the submission fee? So it varies. I think Fiverr, you're getting 80% or something of the money. So Fiverr takes the money, Fiverr makes sure everybody's happy, and then you get $4 or something out of the Fiverr. All right. It's not a way of getting rich very quickly, but it might be a way of having fun. The TaskRabbit, I think, is a way in which some people have decided that they can control the amount of work they have. They can say, look, I'm available to do translation. Fiverr tends to be at the really cheap end of things, and TaskRabbit tends to be at the more professional end of things. But if you need something done, these sorts of things are useful. There's one more of these I want to show you, and that is Mechanical Turk. Now, mechanicalturk.com is a service from Amazon. And it's a slightly strange service because it's not one that you sort of know Amazon do. But what Amazon have done is they've created a marketplace for small jobs. There are currently 259,000 small jobs available. Okay, so let's go and have a look at the jobs. So here is one. Quality estimation from Arabic to English. That sounds too hard. Tag 5 images. All right. So here's a job. The job is to add the description tags to 5 images. There are 7,000 of these jobs available. Okay, and they will pay. That's at 7,300. They'll pay 4 US cents per job that you do. There are lots of people in the US and across the world who spend their lunchtime eating a sandwich and doing these little jobs. You know, doing 20 or 30 of these little jobs, earning $1.20. They're earning, $10 a week. This is not their life, but this is part of a way of making an extra money, or being able to go to the cinema or whatever it is. Okay, so this is a really interesting part of the e-commerce economy, and I'm suggesting to you, firstly, that this is a way of making money, but secondly, keep in mind as you go forward that these people are out there, all right, and therefore, if you need jobs done, this is a great way of doing it. Sometimes you might spend a long time trying to write a computer program to solve something which you actually better solve by having a human being do it. And these sorts of marketplaces allow you to find somebody who will take on that work for you. Are there any questions about that as a way of making money? Good idea? Okay. Let's keep going. So Fiverr. So another possibility is that you can build your own shop. We talked earlier about two e-commerce platforms, Magento and Hybris. I want to introduce you to two more e-commerce platforms. One's called Shopify and one is called Tigtail. And Shopify and Tigtail are slightly different in the sense that they are run as services. They're software as a service offerings. Shopify has about 80,000 shops are powered by Shopify. Tigtail's much newer. Tigtail's been formed in Sweden by some people who've left a company that you might have heard of called Spotify. So some people worked at Spotify, left Spotify and have started Tigtail. And Tigtail's been described as the Tumblr of e-commerce, which may be a good thing or a bad thing, all right? But Tigtail is a way of producing a site very quickly for free. So firstly, what sort of things can you do? So that's Tigtail, we'll come back to that in a minute. So I have a group of students in Sweden who I've worked with, and they have created a number of Tigtail and Shopify sites. I think this one is in Tigtail. I can't remember, but it's in one of them. What they've done is they've recognized that in every company, all right, in every company's office, these sorts of things, the chargers and the adapters go walkies, all right? You know, in other words, you leave your charger lying around, and then you can't remember whether it's your charger or not. So they produced a business where they make stickers to go on the outside of power cords and adapters, so that you can identify which one of these is yours. And they sell them online. So HipD is a company that sells these stickers. Really smart in lots of ways, because the product is incredibly easy to ship. It's actually very nice, and when you see these lying around in Typer Island in Sweden, yeah, they look really nice. And secondly, that people are prepared to pay 5 or 10 quid for a nice set of stickers, all right, to personalise their thing. So that's a really nice business. This one I really like. I should show you this one. This is a bit strange, but I'll show it to you anyway. This one is hipstercity.myshopify. myshopify.com. Okay, hipstercity.myshopify.com. All right. You know, when you go to an interesting city, right? You know, you go to New York. Friends go to New York. Your gran goes to New York, and sometimes, in order to celebrate the fact you went to New York, you go and buy a T-shirt. The guys who set up Hipster City said, that seems terribly unfair on cities that aren't very popular. Okay? What we should do is we should set up a T-shirt company that sells T-shirts for crap cities. Okay? For cities that nobody is really interested in. So they've gone and created a store for all of the sort of third-class cities in Sweden. All right? And it's slightly tongue-in-cheek, but it's quite nice. Here's a place, for example, this place is called, I can't even see that one, all right? Oh yes, Sävsjö, all right? So you can get this T-shirt on the end here. It says Tokyo, London, Sävsjö, New York, Paris, okay? You can get a mug with your city on it, all right? So let's go to the store. This is a really lovely idea. So let's have a look at the cities we can get. All right. All right. Good. I can do it this way. All right. So there's one. There's another one. Helleforsh. All right. Helleforsh. All right. These are all really great cities. All right. And so what they've done is they've created a visual identity. All right. Petio. All right. And they're selling this stuff. All right. Here's another one. Calm and unique. These are brilliant places. Inslo. Can you see that by creating something with a little bit of humor and style, you actually create something that people want to buy? All right. So if you came from one of these cities, if this is where you grew up, then suddenly it becomes interesting to people to do that. And they've built this in Shopify. And Shopify, so here's our cities. And they've created the identity. They could, for example, have gone to one of our marketplaces to do that. But you can see here's the t-shirts they sell. And if we go in here and click, this works in all the same ways that you'd expect a store to be able to work. So Shopify and Ticktail are two platforms with which we can build a store. And the one that I don't mind which one you look at. I mean, I love Shopify because Shopify is super powerful with lots and lots of stuff. Problem with Shopify, if there is a problem, is it'll cost you about £15 a month to run the store because they do everything for you. Ticktail has come in to disrupt that market by being free. Okay. So ticktail.com, here is Ticktail. And what I suggest to you, part of this activity, if this is the one you want to do, is that you think about building a store online in Ticktail as part of an exercise here. So you get to think about how you would do that. Now, Ticktail is free until you want to do some things. Like if you want your own domain name, then you have to pay Ticktail to point a domain at the free Ticktail site. If you want more than the basic payment system, you've got to pay to do that. So it's free up to the point at which you launch your site. I think if you're using Ticktail to its fullest extent, it's probably about the same price as Shopify. But the two of them are both worth looking at. The reason I might suggest you look at Shopify is because as a developer, there's a lot more you can do. You can get in and modify the HTML, you can get in and modify the CSS, you can export all the information, you can import the information, you can build integration with third-party systems. Shopify feels like a platform where you have control. Ticktail feels like my first e-commerce store, and so what I would suggest is you have a look at it. But it's nice and powerful in being able to help you do some of the things you want to do. Shall we? I'll just show you the other one then. So Shopify. Let's have a little look at Shopify. Shopify, 14-day free trial. If any of you are interested in a slightly longer free trial, then come and talk to me, okay? Because I've got good friends at Shopify, and I can probably get you a 2-month free trial if you want to try it in a bit more. So all you do is you fill in your name and password, and then it gives you all the tools that you need. You can create a responsive site. You can create a site that works on mobile. You can integrate it with PayPal and with other payment systems. I created a store a few years ago called marketquarter.com. And this is a store that I've been running for some time with some friends of mine. And this store is built in Shopify, okay? And one of the nice things about Shopify is if you go along and look at all the different stores, yeah?
If we chose a free trial, would Shopify take a cut of the
return of the payment.
Yes, they do. Yes, that's about 3%, I think. As you pay more, they take less. Okay. What you will discover is that there is no way of doing any of this completely for free. So even if you sell on eBay, eBay will take their cut. If you want to sell almost completely free, you'll need a server somewhere, and you'll need to download something like Magento, where you are in control of that. But it's still not free because PayPal will take some money out of your thing, which is why the drop shipping question was so interesting, because if I look at drop shipping, I might be able to make 15 or 16% margin, something like that. They will pay me 16% of the thing. They do everything else. Actually, that 16%'s got to cover my payment fees, and it's got to cover my returns, and it's got to cover my marketing, and it's got to cover any site I want to run. That 16% gets squeezed incredibly quickly, and therefore potentially there's no money. So you've got to be working where, I mean, ideally when we built Marketing Quarter, we were dealing with a 50% margin. So we had about 50% to play with. If you want to come and buy smoked duck breasts, all right, which obviously you do, right? But if you want to buy those, we're buying them in bulk from France, and we're marking them up by about 100%. So there's about a 50% margin, and that's absolutely typical across retail versus wholesale. That 50% is going to cover labor, it's going to cover the running of the site, it's going to cover all those things. The actual profit you make is a lot less than 50%. It's much nearer 10%. And indeed, your startup costs probably don't mean that you're making very much money at all. But what I'm trying to do here is to enthuse some of you to be in a situation which says, you can do this, the tools are out there, the tools are really powerful, you could be using this as a way of trying to make some money for yourself, that's absolutely fine. Or you can be using it as a way of having fun and learning lots about the industry. And that's actually what I'm interested in. I'm interested in you going, okay, I learned so much from running this store. Everything from if you try and learn about marketing, the problem with learning about marketing is unless you've got something to market, it's not very interesting. And pretend marketing is really hard to do. If you actually want to sell more duck breasts, then in fact, marketing duck breasts turns out to be a really difficult thing to do. Okay, so that's why I'm suggesting that we look at this. Okay. All right, let me go back and talk a little bit more about some other ways of doing things. So that was Hipster City and a bit of Shopify and Ticktail. All right. You cannot say to anybody else that I don't bring you some of the best sites on the web. All right. You know, my goal: bring you some of the best sites you can possibly see, and this is one of them. Backyardchickens.com. All right. This is a community for people who keep and raise chickens. All right. It's actually a really, really interesting site and a really interesting business. This is run by a friend of mine, a guy called Dan Gill, who works for a company called Huddler in San Francisco, or just south of San Francisco. And what he's done is he's started a business to help people who run very niche communities to start to make some money. So supposing you're running a community of people who are interested in chickens, all right, and there's about 100,000 odd people who keep chickens in the US, all right. Supposing you're interested in those people, what you do is you build a community, and then you realize that running a community is actually really expensive. What Huddler does is it says, we will partner with you. We will partner with you. We'll make your site look great. We'll make your site work great. But what we'll also do is we'll begin to broker some commercial relationships around your site. So if we go to this site, what we will see, and you'll not be surprised about any of this, is that around the site you'll begin to see some advertising and some. Sorry, this is a bit smaller screen. Hopefully, yes, here we are. So here, for example, at the top here, there's an advert for the Silverado. Okay, and the thing unable to resolve anything. Here's a sponsor from a poultry supplier, and what Huddler does is they go out and arrange commercial deals with different partners in order to be able to make this site make money for the people. This is a really good example of a niche community that is actually doing really well, and the value that can come from that niche community. Let me show you one more of those. So I want to show you headfire.com. So here's another one. This is, you'll see, is obviously another Huddler site. This is a site for people who are particularly interested in hi-fi headphones. All right, and this is one of the most successful Huddler communities. And what it does is it provides a forum for all the latest technology news and ideas around really high-end hi-fi headphones. It was a community. Huddler partnered with the community and has built up a commercially viable business. So here's an example of not e-commerce, but here's an idea of making money online that's actually probably not that familiar to you. This is the idea of building a valuable group of people and then selling that valuable group of people, selling their attention to an audience, a set of advertisers. And why I show you this is because in some senses this is the sort of thing that you could do as well. If you have a blog and your blog is attracting a group of people, then there's no reason why you shouldn't find people to help monetize that. And one of the easiest ways of doing that is through Google AdSense. Now, you talked earlier about advertising, all right? This is the flip side of advertising. This is providing other people with a place to run their advertising. So AdSense is the service that Google provides to bloggers that allows bloggers to make some money out of all the work they do online. And if you look at most of the sort of tech blogs and food blogs and relationship blogs and makeup blogs that start just because someone was passionate about something and you watch them grow, they got to a point where they then had 10,000 people a day coming and reading those newspapers or that article. When you've got 10,000 people, you're suddenly of interest to the advertisers, particularly if you've got a nice vertical interest like backyard chickens or high-end hi-fi headphones. As soon as you've got that targeted audience, you become an opportunity to offer advertising. And that's what people like Google AdSense do. Now, Google AdSense is just one of those, but it's one that you might want to go and look at if you've got any sort of audience for your blog. All right? You could go further than that, or you could link together some of these different ideas. And our friend at the middle there suggested affiliate schemes as a way of making money. Supposing you run a blog and you don't want to sell advertising and you don't want to run your own shop, then what you can do is you can create a relationship with other shops and other people's businesses. The biggest of these schemes, indeed the original one of these schemes I believe, was Amazon Associates. What Amazon Associates allows you to do is to sell anything that's available on Amazon via your site. So it's a little bit like advertising in a sense, because you're going to show this cuddly toy on your site, all right? Except that when I click on it, I'm going to be taken to Amazon and I'm going to do the rest of the deal on Amazon. So it's not quite advertising either, because we're not advertising a message or a product, we're actually showing the actual product, all right? And what happens is that when you get to the site, get to Amazon and you do the transaction, Amazon will then pay you between 6 and 8% of the value of that product. And indeed, Amazon's really nice because they also pay you if the person buys something else. So it doesn't matter whether they buy the object that you're trying to drive them to. If they buy anything on the site during that transaction, then Amazon will reward you for doing that. So if you want to make money, one way of making money is by creating a good quality blog about something and putting some links on your blog to things that people could buy on Amazon. If you're reviewing a movie, for example, on your blog, and you think, well, people might like a copy of the DVD, then actually link to the DVD on Amazon. If you put your affiliate code in there, then Amazon will pay you some money. If you like Shopify and you run a Shopify site, you can become an affiliate for Shopify. All right, I'm an affiliate for Shopify, and I make about $10 a month. All right, so it's not changed my life just yet, but every so often they send me about $35. All right, which I've earned because other people go and use Shopify. If you're interested, John Lewis runs one of the biggest affiliate schemes in the UK. So you can offer John Lewis links on your site, and John Lewis will pay you for introducing customers. So if you write something on your blog and you say, actually I found this really lovely object and here it is, and you send people to it and they then buy, these companies will reward you for doing that. And there are people making a lot of money. We mentioned gambling right at the beginning. Porn and gambling are the two biggest other affiliate schemes where you pass people on. It's all a bit tacky, and yeah, keep away from it. There's a company called Trade Doubler and another one called Commission Junction, and they both operate aggregated affiliate schemes. So if you want to go and sell some stuff from JJB Sports and also from Manchester United and also from John Lewis, you go to one company like Trade Doubler and you sign up one relationship, and then you're able to actually have products from all sorts of different places in there. So people do make decent money out of that if they write a good blog and if people are worth doing that. So these are some of the things I'd like you to try for this week's activity. If you've got a blog that you think has got any traffic on it, then you might try signing up for AdSense. I will say, clicking on your own ads is the surefire way of being blocked from ever earning on AdSense ever again. So what will happen is very quickly you'll go onto AdSense, you'll go onto your site, you'll click on your own ads, you'll click. You'll then go to check AdSense, and you'll get a thing that says you've earned 67p. You'll go back and click, go back, it's £1.20, click, and then you get the email that says you have now been banned forever. So it's a very short period of satisfaction, but you will not ever make any money that way. So do not click on your own ads. Okay? You have to. The people who click on your ads have to be real visitors. You can't get your mum to click on your ads either. That doesn't work either. What they want to do is look for a real pattern of real visitors really looking at your ads. If you click on your own ad by mistake, don't worry about it. If you click on your ad, do worry about it. All right? Explore signing up for an affiliate scheme. Go and explore Trade Doubler and John Lewis and Amazon and see how those work. Go to Ticktail, Shopify, build your own site. All right. If you even if you never launch it, and go ahead, launch it. Look at Hipster City. If somebody can launch Hipster, I need to show you something. All right. How does Hipster City work? You need to know about something called Cafe Press. All right. Cafe Press will print all sorts of things, all right, and drop ship them for you. So supposing you're doing Hipster City, over here you run your shop with your unique things. Cafe Press or somebody like Cafe Press will print them for you. all right, and send them off. So that's how this becomes possible. Otherwise, you're going to have to make some T-shirts or make some sweatshirts and things like that. This requires you not to do that. Only when the order comes in does the order get made by these companies. All right. So go and find someone like Cafe Press to help you. You can get that working, and it will make you a few quid. Go and sign up for Fiverr and offer a unique service. If you can do something unique, particularly something, Valentine's Day is a great time to be offering something really unusual that only you can do. All right, but you can go and do that and perhaps make a few dollars this time for Fiverr. Okay. We've got 10 more minutes to go, all right? So what I want to do is just highlight for you just some of the things about why you're not going to go out of here and become millionaires overnight, all right? So the first thing is, whatever you do, you're going to need to tell somebody about it, all right? And although there is money to be made, everything needs marketing. The second thing is that your customers will require you to look after them. Whether your customers are customers on Fiverr or whether your customers are customers on Hippo, when you send out the medium T-shirt and somebody tries it on and discovers they wanted to buy the large, they're going to call you up and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I bought the wrong T-shirt," and you've got to decide what you want to do. Well, go away. I'm not prepared to do anything about it. That's probably not great customer service, all right? But what do you do, all right? And what do you do with a T-shirt that's been sold and worn, all right? Service is a real problem. You must stay within the law and any regulations. There are lots of regulations. There's a law, for example, called the distance selling regulations. And that says that if I buy something online, I have to have the right to change my mind, okay? You can't say, "Hey, you bought it, therefore it's yours," because the distance selling regulations say you didn't see it until you got it, and when you got it, you were disappointed. Therefore, you must be able to send it back. There are all sorts of laws we've got to behave with, and so before you rush to do this, and the same is true if you sell stuff on eBay, by the way, you just need to be a little bit careful about it. Taking payment is more complicated than it looks, particularly if you're doing it abroad. All right, if you're taking money from another country, all sorts of pitfalls. eBay spends a lot of time working on how you make sure that payment and delivery actually both happen. Because clearly you could go on eBay and somebody pays you some money and then you could run off. All right. Or similarly, you could have an order, you ship out the order, and the money never arrives. So both parties could get screwed. So what we need is a situation of trust. And almost every payment system is actually a trust system. And that's what you're going to need to be careful about. So when you're choosing how to do that, you'll discover, by the way, that if you say, "Hey, I'm going to go on Ticktail and make stuff and sell it on Cafe Press and whatever," the banks aren't going to rush to sign you up as a merchant just yet. You're probably going to have to work with PayPal to start with, because PayPal is quite nice at letting people get started on this. They're quite expensive. They take about 3.8% of your business, all right? Once you have built your business up, the banks will then be interested in you selling, and you probably cut that down to 2.1% or something like that. But the banks aren't interested in people just starting out until they've built a little bit of a reputation. Small shops struggle to become big shops. And the reason is that they're not making enough money to afford to be able to do the marketing or the branding or build new products that would allow them to get bigger. So just be enthusiastic and try this stuff out. One recommendation I would make is partner with somebody else. E-commerce is much more fun when you do it with another group of people. So I recommend that. And just remember, without an audience, you will make no money. However good your idea is, however fabulous your products are, unless somebody knows they're there, you will make nothing. So you may be having to do stuff on social media, you may have to do stuff on banners and buttons, you may have to advertise. And of course, advertising, you're paying out money, not making it this time. Final slide. What's happening? So the big things that are happening in e-commerce at the moment are mobile. Mobile phones definitely, but also tablets. If you're designing a store today, it needs to work on a tablet as well, because it appears that when people are at home on their sofa or lounging in bed with a tablet, they're even more likely to buy than they are on a desktop machine. So designed for tablets. Mobile e-commerce is massive. And look at a company like eBay, and look at the way that eBay is dominating the mobile world. Lots of little tricks going on, like notifying you when a price changes, okay? Like talking to you regularly about the things you like, about showing you, when you don't get a bid, showing you other things you might like that might satisfy you. Lots of really good stuff going on at eBay. Today, if you're working for a client, the chances are that you'll be integrating offline and online. If you look at Asda, if you look at Amazon, if you look at other people, there's now a push to make online and offline happen together. I was coming down through Farringdon yesterday, and I noticed a big Amazon locker centre. Is there an Amazon locker centre in Kingston? I haven't seen one yet. Does anybody know what Amazon Locker is? So Amazon Locker is a place where you can have your stuff delivered, okay, which is not your home and not your work. It's like a storage centre. You go and you unlock one of these cupboards and take out what you're doing. Asda's doing exactly the same. How can you, if you want to do your shopping online, you're going to do shopping online, you pick it up on your way home, or you pick it up at a petrol station because it gets delivered to somewhere halfway between work and home. Click and collect is massive. If you go to Boots, if you go to most of the big online stores in the UK, you'll see that they now offer click and collect. Because what people want to do is they want to know that they can go shopping, so they're part of the high street experience, but they also want to know that they can get what they want. So they can go and pick up a bag at the end of the shopping trip they're doing.
A new one is eBay and Argos. They've combined together, so you can pick up your auto. They use the Argos delivery service infrastructure.
Exactly.
So that's fine.
Exactly. And it's happening absolutely everywhere. That this mixture of online and offline is going to be there. Marketplaces, I mentioned those already. They are going to be super important. One of the things I've noticed is that the experience we can create with Ticktail or Shopify is better than the experience I can create on eBay. The experience for the customer on eBay is still fairly rudimentary. Just imagine if eBay folded Shopify or Ticktail into eBay. So now I could actually run my own store inside eBay, but all of the other bits is still eBay. So that I could, if I'm a brand, I could go along and have the store in store and be able to do things in there. And I think that is the way things are going to go. I think particularly if we look at China and we look at what's happening with Taobao and Tmall. Taobao is the biggest provider of e-commerce in the world now, I think. I think they're about the same size as Amazon, but they may be slightly bigger. But they run a marketplace looks like eBay called Taobao, and they run a specialist, high-end, interesting goods. Prada and Gucci and whatever is run inside Tmall. So Tmall is the same. It's a marketplace, and as the tools get better, we should be able to have a situation where brands can work inside other people's businesses, and that's something I would definitely watch. All the big companies are investing very large in e-commerce. It's the biggest area of growth in retail. Business-to-business e-commerce is hugely important, and we should be watching that. Social marketing. We can't now build a brand and do good business without considering how we're going to use social media, from Pinterest, Tumblr, Facebook and Twitter, and all the others. And then final thing I put up here, just for you to sort of keep in mind, is optimization and testing. Launching a store is the very first steps to building a business. What you can't do is launch a store and then go and take a holiday and hope that it's going to go really well. What happens is you build the store, and then you start to get feedback from customers. You start to recognize that you bought the wrong things, you're selling at the wrong price. And so what you need to do is experiment. You need to say, well, what happens if I change the price of this? What happens if I add some new product? What happens if I change the design? So most e-commerce budgets need to be spent on optimization and testing rather than on building a store. And lots of people in our business, in the building, designing, and running things, are finding that quite hard. That we imagine that what happens is that we get hired to build something, and the answer is we do. But increasingly, we're building inside very powerful tools. What we now have to be thinking about is what do we do after launch? What's the job that you and I will be doing after something has launched? Are there any final questions from today? Comments? Okay, so just to go back, the assignment which I put up tonight will be around exploring some of this. I hope you've got some more tools. I will see you again in about 3 weeks' time. Okay? I'm not here next week. See you soon. Thank you.